ladies and gentlemen, it does appear that there is another Hoyoverse CC crash out in the middle of happening. And it looks like today it is unfortunately MrPokke. And if you've been familiar with some of the other content that he's been making in some recent days, MrPokke has had a little bit of an issue with the whole Wuthering Waves versus Genshin Impact situation, right? That has happened on his Twitch channel when he was playing 5.3. He was very upset with how his chat was interacting with each other, basically telling him not to play the game. And he basically went into like a whole bit of rant about Gacha Tribalism and how it's been affecting him personally. I basically had the viewpoint of, well, if you want it to stop, just ban the people from your chat. But it seems like he's going ahead and he's taking it one step further. He talked about how he really wanted to lean into Honkai Star Rail a lot more, kind of make it, you know, like his main sort of game. And one of the promises that he wanted to make for 2025, or not necessarily a promise, but one of the directions he wanted for his channel was to instigate less. And unfortunately, it does seem like the opposite is taking place. So let's go ahead, let's dive right on into it. Let's read out this tweet. I was about to make another vid because the Gacha Tribalism mentally deficient people are so dumb that it makes me pity them. But unfortunately, their mental illness is not my problem. Absolutely not. There are quite a few individuals on the internet, and especially on Twitch and YouTube channels, that do have an illness. I talk about it a lot, and one thing I do with people that directly express their mental illness in my chats or comment section is I block or ban them. Thankfully, I'm at peace. This is an ironic statement because I think coming out with a statement this aggressive in the first couple of sentences, I'm not exactly sure if you're at peace. You could view this preceding statement as, well, the opposite of peace. And realize that this was the best thing that happened to me because I finally get to find the dogs that are barking nonstop and put them down. All right, so right off of the bat, this first paragraph to me is potentially littered with contradictions because this, again, like I mentioned before, this seems to me like quite literally the opposite of peace. It actually sounds like we are going to war, except in this circumstance, we are going to war against Gacha Tribalism. And so obviously that video by MrPokke, that whole breakdown on the whole Genshin versus Wuwa situation is directly feeding right into this. Let's read more. People who want to farm and push whatever agenda they want to push will continue to do so, with or without me sharing my experience. I think he might be talking about like the true Hoyo shills or the true Kuro bots in this situation. Whether they hate Genshin or Wuwa, the narrative will always be there, which gives purpose to the same dogs that need to bark for attention. And so now it almost seems like we're shifting some of the, I'm not necessarily sure, like the blame or the onus onto content creators themselves. The way that I view pushing people who want to farm and push whatever agenda, this seems to me less like a viewer or community problem and more like a content creator content problem. That's what I'm thinking. And so he's saying that the content creators are giving purpose to the dogs that need to bark for attention. So bit of an interesting take here. I guess banning people from chat is too hard at this point because, you know, you could just not give these dogs a chance to bark in the first place by simply, you know, banning them from your chat, which a lot of Twitch streamers do. A lot of YouTube comment sections do as well. I will continue playing whatever I want to play. It can be Wuwa, it can be Genshin, it can be Marvel Rivals, for all I care. If you want to see war, there's plenty of others. If you want to bitch and whine like your mom dropped you, then get banned. I've moved on and will be looking forward to a better 2025. And so I guess this is him kind of like putting the foot down on Gacha Tribalism in his chat, kind of like putting the foot down on toxic community members that are lessening or dampening his experience as he plays games. I don't think there's necessarily a problem with, you know, talking about how you're going to control your chat, how you're going to moderate a lot more, and how you're going to clean up your community. I don't necessarily see why we had to slide this line into here. I'm not necessarily sure why we had to slide this line into here and almost like create this idea that there are other people causing the problem. When, I mean, let's be honest here, my friend. I'm just gonna start pulling up some videos. Hoyo deserves our apology. Obviously, this was like a joke video, but I do believe it started a lot of this, you know, Hoyoverse versus Kuro games dynamic that's been happening in the space, right? We were pushing it, right? And I mean, let's look at some other potentially insightful clips or insightful thumbnails at the very least, right? Things that would have directly contributed to or pushed forward drama a little bit more. Wuthering Waves has a huge problem. Obviously, this video isn't about me, it's about Vars. I mean, but it uses my icon, right? We're feeding into it, right? We're calling people #1 Hoyo shows, blah, 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 talking about problems, feeding into and reacting to the drama, right? What else are we doing here? I interviewed the biggest Kuro bot. I hate Hoyo. Wasn't it a month ago? Why does that matter? If anything, it being only a month ago makes this statement a little bit more hypocritical, in my opinion. And so I think it's clear, right, that he crashed out because he criticized Honkai Star Rail, right? This was Poke having a chat with Ryuku Sensei about Honkai Star Rail and why he doesn't think it's that great or not that great of a game. And then we have the thumbnail here, he crashed out. There's another thing that we're forgetting about here. Here it is. Guys, we made this post way back in the day defending drama content and talking about why we're justified in posting drama content. And this is still up too, right? You guys remember this whole post by MrPokke, right? Talking about defending his right to post drama content on December 11th. And so I've listed out maybe 4 different examples already, just within the past, like, less than 30 days. But I guess now we're sort of taking this stance. Now we're sort of taking this stance over here that it's just like other people who want to farm and push agendas. I'm gonna be honest. It's like, why don't we at least address what we've done when making a statement like this when it comes to the current climate of gacha games? Why not recognize what we have done to contribute to whatever is going on over here, right? I do think it is a little bit hypocritical to be calling out people like this, calling out CCs like this, when we were a direct contributor to the system, to the dynamic, to the climate that's going on right now. I'm going to be honest. And so if he's not unlisting videos, right? If he's not making public statement, if he's not deleting or privating tweets, right? That have directly been a root cause of the situation that he's experiencing right now, I'm gonna be honest, guys, it looks a little stinky, right? Can we at least agree here? This seems a little bit stinky. Is that fair for me to say? Is that fair for me to say? I think it is. So I get his viewpoint, right? He wants to be a gamer from here on out. He wants to be, you know, somebody that just focuses on his own enjoyment, focuses on his own content and his favorite game, Honkai Star Rail. But if we're going to be calling out other people or mentioning them in this, frankly, negative light, implying that they're the ones giving food or fuel to toxic members of the community, let's talk about how we did it too. And if we're trying to turn over a new leaf, like some people in chat are saying, and try to make like this shift in our content, right? Why don't we address what we did as well? Because how much more impactful of a statement would this be if he said, I am now unlisting all of my drama related videos. I am now removing that content from my channel. I'm deleting all of the tweets associated with drama, and I'm moving forward and turning over a new leaf. And now I'm actually going to be neutral. How much more powerful would it have been? And so that's my viewpoint. That's my take on this, right? I do think this entire statement, this entire dynamic, it's slightly hypocritical, frankly, because we went through an entire post talking about why we are justified in posting drama content, right? That's sort of inciting war within the community, as he said. We have multiple videos inciting war, talking about all this stuff, calling out individual content creators, driving this whole toxic dynamic that you said you're now putting down. Hey, let's be realistic here. Let's be realistic here and talk about how we're contributing to the problem versus, like, again, calling out other CCs, other creators for providing fuel for the fire when we were potentially one of the creators, right? MrPokke was one of the creators that was providing the most fuel for all of these fires that he's experiencing right now. So I do think, like, a little bit of self-realization here. I think a lot of people are viewing this as a crash out for good reason. I think it's fair to call this a crash out because of the honestly blatant hypocrisy that we're seeing over here. And I do think, like, if you're gonna take a stance like this, sort of like this, oh, like, I'm going to change, or I'm going to be better, or, you know, I'm not somebody that's causing these problems, then you got to start with yourself, right? And recognize how you've contributed in the first place, and then, you know, talk about how you're gonna fix and rectify those issues, because there's just a lot of receipts here, and it frankly, I don't think it looks that great to be making a statement than this, having, again, this sort of, like, holier than thou point of view. And here's the last thing, right? Let's just look up PvP in here. Let's look up revenue. Guys, 5 days ago, Gacha War is back. Like, the literal title is Gacha War is back. And then we dive into Gacha revenue, which is quite literally one of the most toxic conversations in the space that is used to constantly fuel toxicity in the space. And then we revived Gacha revenue as well a month ago. But we're talking about how other people are farming and pushing agendas. Come on, man, right? Like, it's all right there. Why make statements like this? So this is what I'm considering a crash out, in my opinion. It all seems to me like, you know, majorly like a self-inflicted problem. There's a lot of like just contradictory receipts. There's a lot of statements about how he's going to change, but it's just like, if you genuinely were trying to change, you'd be unlisting these videos, right? And then making public statements about what you've done to incite all of this drama in the space, frankly. So again, hopefully this provided more context. I don't think this is like I don't view this path as like very legitimate from my point of view. I do think, in my honest opinion, it's a bit of like a holier than thou take to be calling out other people and then not address what we've done. And I really hope that MrPokke does something to address this, and, you know, kind of clear the airway and, you know, kind of just provide more realism to the situation, because I think the framing that he's put on it isn't very legitimate at all. So let me know what you all think. As always, like and subscribe. Peace out.